Biden is spying on you.
No, never.
How do I know this? Well, I received a tip-off from an intelligence agency employee about something that has hardly been covered at all, and it is, and I'm not exaggerating whatsoever, terrifying. Like, honestly terrifying.
You know how to treat me, don't you, Josh?
So yes, the Biden administration can now legally access private information of individuals both within the United States and abroad, with very few limitations for what that information is and how it could be used. So this is within the domain of signals intelligence, which includes things like communications, so internet and mobile phones, or cell phones if you're American, among a host of other communications networks. So they've quietly revoked key parts of the Presidential Policy Directive 28, or PPD 28, as I'm going to be referring to it, as of the 7th of October. And the PPD 28 are instructions on collecting signals intelligence while protecting the civil liberties, identities, and other protections held by US citizens and their allies. So if we go onto the page here, I'm obviously not making it up, you can read it all for yourself. Everything here is taken from the government websites, so these are, official sources. So I'm just going to be reading exactly what they say out in the open, which kind of betrays their amount of confidence in their ability to get away with this. Well, they're not going to get away with it because we are actually going to report on it. I haven't seen anyone else report on it so far. So if you can spread this around, it would be nice. Obviously, not just because, I want people to see my segments, but also because it's really, really important, and that's why I'm covering it in the first place. So here it is. Here's National Security Memorandum on the Partial Revocation of Presidential Policy Directive 28. If you can scroll down a little bit, John, if you keep on going, down here, somewhere around here, it basically says that they're removing all parts of the PPD 28 except Section 3 and Section 6. So just so you can show it on screen, there we go. So Section 1, revocation, PPD 28 is hereby revoked except for Sections 3 and 6 of that directive and the classified annex to that directive, which remains in effect. So let's look at what the PPD 28 actually is and look at some of the revoked passages that are no longer law. So I haven't included Sections 3 and 6, obviously the ones that they've kept in there, but you can also read this for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it or trust my quotes. We've linked the sources down below, the weekend segments on our website, which we'll be able to access in the description on YouTube. So you'll be able to get access to this and check it out for its validity. So here are some of the revoked passages. Privacy and civil liberties shall be integral considerations in the planning of US signals intelligence activities. The United States shall not collect signal intelligence for the purpose of suppressing or burdening criticism or dissent, or for disadvantaging persons based on their ethnicity, race, gender, sexual orientation, or religion. Signals intelligence shall be collected exclusively where there is a foreign intelligence or counterintelligence purpose to support national and departmental missions, and not for any other purposes. So yes.
So they're just using it to spy on white Christian conservatives.
Yes. It seems like, to me, they're revoking this part to collect blackmail or to silence dissent, pretty much.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of bits that springs to mind. Number one, California revoked their civil rights legislation to allow them to actively discriminate against race, and they were doing it for positive/affirmative action. Mm-hmm. But that goes fundamentally against the premises of all men created equal in the image of God that the US Constitution is founded on. So now, obviously, you still have the Constitution, even they've run roughshod over it, but you're taking out the constitutional language from pieces of legislation here. And then the other one is the presidential directive that George Bush wrote that said in the event of an emergency, including things like weather, so like Hurricane Ian would even qualify, you can dispense of all branches of government and just consolidate all power into the executive. And Barack Obama updated that, and it's still sitting there as like a fail-safe big red button bit of legislation should they choose to press it. So I guarantee Biden knows about that. Mm-hmm. So pieces of legislation like this on top of that is just disconcerting.
Mm-hmm. So it keeps on getting worse as well. The collection of foreign private commercial information or trade secrets is authorized only to protect the national security of the United States or its partners and allies. It is not authorized foreign intelligence or counterintelligence purpose to collect such information to afford a competitive advantage to the US companies and US business sectors commercially.
Ah, how interesting. So basically, they can do the Great Reset style consolidation of their corporate partners in with government and hand off their intelligence there. This will be the piece of legislation which allows them to sync the public and private spheres with digital ID and exchange information. It's like the WEF's blueprint for a digital identity document allowed you to both vote in elections and access your banks and have a corporate citizen's ID. It's all interlinked. So that's very interesting.
So more or less, the sitting president, which is Joe Biden, can become kingmaker in the economy. He can say, okay, well, we're going to share all our intelligence with the companies that we like, that do the things that we want, at the expense of companies whose values we disagree with.
Yeah, that's just the open corporatism of doctrinal fascism. Fantastic. Great. Cheers, Joe.
So, moving on. Locating new or emerging threats and other vital national security information is difficult, as such information is often hidden with large and complex systems of modern global communications. The United States must consequently collect signals intelligence in bulk in certain circumstances in order to identify these threats. Routine communications and communications of national security interest increasingly transit the same networks, however, and the collection of signals intelligence in bulk may consequently result in the collection of information about persons whose activities are not of foreign intelligence or counterintelligence value. The United States will therefore impose new limits on its use of signals intelligence in bulk. These limits are intended to protect the privacy and civil liberties of all persons, whatever their nationality and regardless of where they might reside. So yes, they've removed the limitations about gathering people's private data in bulk, regardless of their nationality or their perceived rights to privacy.
Right, so this explains something that I did actually cover later on, earlier with Dominic Frisby, where the Biden administration were handing over Facebook were handing over mass amounts of texts from private users to the FBI for the FBI to sift through without subpoena. And it was because if they were suspected of questioning the integrity of US democratic processes, and they didn't find a single actionable offence in all of that, but they still gave it to intelligence agencies without probable legal cause.
So the final one that I thought was particularly interesting is all persons should be treated with dignity and respect regardless of their nationality or wherever they might reside, and all persons have legitimate privacy interests in the handling of their personal information. US signals intelligence activities must therefore include appropriate safeguards for the personal information of all individuals regardless of the nationality of the individual to whom the information pertains or where that individual resides.
So there's two bits there. It's just kind of funny that you repeal the part that says all persons should be treated with dignity and respect. I just like the idea that Biden read that line, ripped it up, and was like, no, I'm going to insult them, Jack. And then the other one is, right at the end, the most telling part, the information pertains or where that individual resides. So that's global surveillance scope.
Yes.
So is America just spying on us as well?
Everyone, yes.
Right.
So, in summary, what I've gathered from reading through this is that the government can resume collection of bulk data as well as repealing all considerations for liberties and identities and retain that information long term, as well as cutting back the oversight of the use of this information, particularly of US citizens as well as foreign nationals as well. So it's pretty horrifying.
Yeah, it's just a surveillance state.
In concert with this as well, this is something that has received public exposure, is if we move on to this Business Insider article, Twitter official partner Dataminer, which police use to monitor Black Lives Matter protests, a relevant side detail, will soon get a surveillance contract for the White House.
Well, I like how Insider have included it because they think that that's a blow against the police. So it's both the prongs of the left and right attacking big tech. But they think, if the police were watching Black Lives Matter protests, that means that Dataminer is evil. They're part of surveillance. They're surveilling our guys. Where I'm just thinking, yeah, they probably kick their feet up on the desk and watch the CCTV of all the stores burning down. So I hate them for not doing anything with the information.
So it continues to say Dataminer has a contract for surveilling social media and providing news alerts for the White House. Dataminer is in Twitter's official partner program, which gives it more access to Twitter data. Twitter, which had filed a lawsuit against Elon Musk previously, invested in Dataminer. So very interesting stuff. So I'm going to read from the body of the article as well, just to get a little bit more detail about this. So Dataminer, one of Twitter's official partners, will soon get a new social media surveillance contract with the White House, according to a newly published government document. The Defense Information Systems Agency, which oversees communications for the White House, will get 30 licenses of First Alert, a product for public agencies that mines data from more than 200,000 sources, including social media, blogs, information sensors, and the deep dark web, which makes it sound like two different adjectives, but it's basically just the deep web, right?
The Mariana Trench of the internet.
Dataminer says its AI translates this data and uses it to craft real-time breaking news alerts. A new contract justification document mentions that Dataminer would be used on a watch floor, which refers to the watch floor of the White House Situation Room, Dataminer said. It's unclear how much the contract, announced on September 22nd, will be worth or how long it will last. Twitter's official partner program, which includes 15 companies that get up to 5 years of historic data from Twitter and early access to its products, appear to have played a crucial role in Dataminer landing the contract. In a sole source justification document, which is completed when the government has decided on a vendor and just before the contract is signed, DISA said it requires a vendor that's a certified official Twitter data partner. DISA expects Dataminer to use Twitter as a source for providing event detection. Dataminer will also mine other social media sites like Reddit and monitor for any sharp and unexpected diversions in planned airplane routes or aeroplane.
Can we scroll up slightly in this? Sorry. Yeah, this just, John's, pause there. Go down. The DISA contract comes as a delicate moment for Twitter, which held a 5% stake in Dataminer as of 2016, that the company says it no longer has a stake in Dataminer. Twitter, along with InQtel, a CIA-funded venture capital firm, was an early investor in Dataminer. So this is the government intelligence agencies funding other companies to then fund other companies, which then spy on you, which then go back to the White House Situation Room and create a perfectly circular economy where you are the capital, basically.
Yes.
They are milking you for your data, your tax money, to just enrich themselves. It's all trickle up. That is genuinely terrifying. Right?
And the fact that all of this is happening at once suggests that it's going to culminate in one very significant event, I imagine.
Yeah.
They're doing this for a very specific reason, and it's difficult to guess at this moment what this reason is, but being aware that this is going on is very important. But if you want to escape Biden's surveillance and live in the wilderness or survive the incoming Biden apocalypse, I suggest you check out my Contemplations number 65 on prepping, which is going to be free as of the day that this goes out for a week to celebrate our 500th episode of the podcast. So this series is normally behind a paywall, but this is my favourite one because I'm very much into my camping, bushcraft and foraging in my spare time, and I feel like I did a really good job providing an introduction into disaster prepping, and I advise everyone, especially in the light of this legislation, to check this out. It is free. I put a lot of work into it, so I hope you enjoy it, and it certainly will be useful. But to close us out, I think you wanted to talk a little bit about the segment that you did where you were talking about the Patriot Act 2.0.
Well, I thought we just had a brief bit of relevance to cover some ancillary information. So as we can see here, we've got it on YouTube, and there's also the link to the one on the website, the full podcast with all the sources. The interesting thing that I covered at the time, as well, is Alex Berenson's lawsuit with Twitter, and he had internal Twitter communications on Slack where Twitter employees were saying certain individuals from the White House had asked them to specifically remove Alex Berenson for Chinese illness-related information, spreading misinformation about certain medical treatments, and also that they wanted Fauci parody accounts removed because they were saying, oh, it's not one of ours. And we know that they had Nina Jankowicz's Department of Misinformation. We know that Surgeon General Vivek Murthy had said, oh, misinformation, disinformation, conflating the two is the truth is whatever we say at the time, which just means you've got a constant government orthodoxy being handed down to you. And so the regime is the proprietor, the progenitor of all that is correct. I believe Jacinda Ardern said pretty much the same thing in New Zealand. So we're seeing all the narratives ossify. And now And I don't know what your speculation is on why they signed a specific bit of legislation now, because you said things are coming to a head. I think they're trying to set themselves up as the sole source of orthodoxy. They're trying to gather a lot of information on you. They're trying to purge dissidents. But then they're also trying to create an information infrastructure to give you a digital ID linked to digital currency and make sure that you cannot engage in commerce. They can predict your behaviors. They can only gatekeep voting systems to actual citizens that they like, and they're trying to make it so that you are very contingent on living your everyday life and participating in commerce and government based on their permission.
My guess at what they're collecting this for is more or less that they're collecting information on people who oppose their agenda, and they're going to use their remaining time in office to collect as much as possible to then combat dissidents and people like that. I mean, they explicitly revoked something that said that it couldn't be used against political dissidents. So it seems to me that this is being used for purely political means, not national security means. This is to promote things like the Great Reset and the Biden agenda, that sort of thing. It's a very clear pathway down that route. I mean, it couldn't be more explicit. The official White House sources were pretty much all I used here for getting the information that I did. And the fact they're putting it out in the open means that it's already probably too far gone to be able to stop it. But at least knowing about it and how absolutely horrifying this is will allow us to better adjust to the incoming terror that we might have to endure.
Thanks for watching this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. If you enjoyed that, you can subscribe to our website and become a premium member and access more of our content, including this recent compilation that Callum has mocked up of the Labour Party conference. This is multi-part because there is a lot to go over there. If you'd like to find more on Callum, you can find him on Getter at Callum. Thank you and goodbye.